Our mission is to re-index the internet to make it smarter.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Top of the Hunt. Today, we've got Cheney with us, who's created Arbor. They've done incredibly well on Product Hunt, and he's going to have a lot of interesting things to talk about today about AI and the implications for it in and around the world. And I think it's going to be a very insightful conversation. So, without further ado, I'll pass you over to Cheney. Hello, Cheney. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi everyone from Top of the Hunt. Nice to meet you all. My name is Cheney. I'm a serial entrepreneur and private investor. One of the key businesses I've done for the past 7 years is an AI SaaS solution companies that provides financial document extraction services to banks, to financial institutions based on a bunch of deep learning models. So we have been in the AI industry for quite a while, but then nothing is as exciting as what we see from ChatGPT and the LLM. A lot of the visions we had back to 10 years ago when we started the whole thing finally becomes possible. So that's why we launched Arbor to realize our vision for long. To give a brief introduction of Arbor, Arbor is an aggregator summary app. We compare sources on the same event sentence by sentence. Our mission is to re-index the internet to make it smarter. And I would love to share more why we think it's important to make it smarter and how we are going to make it smarter.
Definitely. So, does that mean the internet's stupid at the moment, or just can be a lot smarter?
The internet looks smart, but it's not as smart as we realize when the full potential is released. Maybe let me deep dive into it now. The thing is, we all thought internet is smart, given that, wow, you can search anything on Google. But if you realize Google doesn't exactly understand every website, it uses like keyword match and then some re-ranking technique to give you so-called more relevant results. The thing is, given before the whole ChatGPT LM thing, nobody has a mature enough natural language processing technique to really understand every website, every sentence. So Google has already done this best for the past 20 years. But the problem is, with all those techniques, it becomes very easily to be gamed by the industry who would like to promote their websites. That's what we call search engine optimization. For example, like if I'm searching Newcastle, then the people would like to get their articles on top of Newcastle search result. They will put like 20 Newcastles in the article. Like people call it keyword density. And there are like tons of techniques around that. Because of that, it is a constant fight between Google to provide the truly most relevant and valuable result versus those that would just want to advertise their results better on top of the search results. The problem is with ChatGPT and the whole Gen AI movement, we are seeing tons of Gen AI produced SEO articles every day that is flooding the internet, and Google is having a challenging uphill battle to fight against that. The searching quality according to multiple sources, including like the top tier digital marketing agencies, and probably you have your personal experiences that the searching result is actually deteriorating. Google, a few months ago, Google tried to change the definition. In the past, their mission is to index and to provide relevant result generated by human. They like drop that definition and thinking that like, as long as it's valuable content, it doesn't care whether it's generated by human or AI. And they did a few small changes that didn't really work out. Like 2 months ago, Google even announced that they will do a major update in May. But again, if we really understand like the whole search engine infrastructure from inside out, we know that it's really almost an impossible task until Google really understands every website, even down to every sentence level. We see that as a challenge, but also a gigantic opportunity. Tim Berners-Lee, many people call him like founder of internet, has a vision called semantic internet for more than 30 years. That was almost the original definition of Web 3.0 before like crypto guys took over it. That was a simple idea, but also a very powerful idea. We finally have the right way to do it. The saying is, if the internet is smart enough to understand every sentence in every web page, then there should be much more relevant and powerful results. So our approach here is if our engine is able to really understand every sentence, then we can compare every sentence against another sentence in another website of a similar topic. Then we can help clean up and deduplicate the internet. We can index the internet at the knowledge or at the sentence level. Or even what I do here as a product is as an aggregator summary platform on any standalone events like the launch of Apple Vision Pro. Like people would love to go through reviews after reviews just to look for some extra insights, right? Even though each article will share very common basic background, like the size, like the weight, like the price, that you probably don't want to read 20 times, but you have to bear with that just because you want to read another review to get something extra. So what we do
Mm.
here is we'll combine that 20 review articles on Apple Vision Pro. We combine it in a way that I only show you the unique standpoints from each source. Or I'll tell you the point A is shared by source A and B, point B is shared by source D and E, and point C is uniquely discovered by source F, for example. So what we call is a all you need to know summary, and it's an all you need to know summary platform.
That sounds incredibly different to how we used to consuming the content. And you're right, I've been through many websites and searched, and one of the biggest pet peeves I've ever had is the very simple example is a pricing page where they've got only one difference at the bottom.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like, why bother? Do you know, you're the better off just doing it differently. And I suppose that's equally as problematic with the internet, isn't it? Where we've got people who've just done SEO. So it's an interesting problem. So I can imagine it's going to be a massive project, perhaps one of the biggest I've ever heard somebody want to undertake.
Yep, I would say I'm definitely not done yet. Like after all, like to re-index the internet sentence by sentence is something even Google would not have enough capacity to do right now. So our approach is
Mm.
very pragmatic. I start with news because I want to start with most credible information sources. I now make it like a news aggregation platform. But then compared to the previous generation of news aggregators, I have the Gen AI to make summaries to make information more consumable. But then if you have been seeing in my app, we have also extended this to video summaries function as well. We have been breaking down YouTube videos into 1 to 3 minute section summaries so that you can like read the summaries and skip to the most relevant section that you really want to watch the whole session in the video format. So we have been doing things like that to expand the scope of what we're doing step by step. Of course, like the next step would be very likely long form documents and social media content as well.
Yeah, it's interesting because there's a professor I know from, he's now at Bayes University, which was formerly Cass Business School, I think, in London. And he recently started a YouTube channel and he's teaching things that I know he delivers on a master's course
Mm-hmm.
to people for free on YouTube, but his channel is not growing anywhere near perhaps what it should. And it's interesting because I've seen other people who have probably optimized it better and are performing a lot better than he is, and the content is nowhere near as valuable. So I think what you're trying to do there will make the internet a better place for people. And obviously, the rubbish that we're seeing, I don't say rubbish, the generative content is that we're seeing a lot of blog posts and other things. It's going to be before long, if they're re-indexing themselves, if chat's re-indexing its information from the internet, then it's going to be regurgitating its own information back. So it's eventually going to be almost a for loop of information from them.
Yeah,
It's
but
crazy.
I think we all definitely deserve the internet more than cat photos. The thing is that we all thought like the internet has everything. The thing is, I would say that we have a very messy internet, so we thought we have everything. It's like when we pack up, when we make our home extremely untidy, you will thought like we have a lot of stuff. But then once you really tied up everything, it's not really that many. That's also the same case. The thing is, I've got a feature that I would like to launch, but I fail it successfully, or like successfully fail it. Like the way I say it is, I have a feature that I would be asking follow-up questions with LM on the summary I generate and try to suggest like 10 meaningful and valuable follow-up questions. Then I'll try to use my technique to search for the answers on the internet. I did an experiment on this function. I successfully generated 90% or even higher percentage of quality questions that as a person I would love to know the answers on. The problem is
Mhm.
less than 10% of the time I have truly quality answers on the internet to answer those questions. Um,
Okay.
is a very interesting example that once we tidy up the internet, we'll realize that internet is not having everything we have in the real life. The
Yeah.
frontier of knowledge is still very broad and very far away for us to explore. And someone like that will address a bit of an interesting topic. Like given we summarize news, people will say, "Are we replacing the publishing industry? Will it become a big threat to the newspaper industry?" I actually have another way round to see this. Yes, we're the cleaner, we're the butler of the internet. We try to tidy up the home for everyone, so that I'm actually helping the publishing industry to kill the copycats. Like those like rubbish SEO articles, they will easily like copy from New York Times, from Wall Street Journal, then they post it on their website and probably have an SEO ranking even higher than New York Times or Wall Street Journal. So people click into the
Hmm.
copycats, not the original one. In our platform, we highlight uniqueness and originality. So that's why we can promote quality content once we duplicate and clean out those copycats. The second thing is I start to see the role of AI here is not to be the competitors of human, but to be like a judge, to judge on which one is having high quality, which one is more unique. Then AI, as I said, like can ask follow-up questions, so AI can be inspiring to human to find out answers not on the internet, but should be on the internet. Then that would actually become like the journalist's job to bring insights from offline to online. So I would say like there has always been saying let what belongs to God and let what belongs to Caesar, right? What I think is like, let AI tidy up the internet, then human can really focus on bringing insights from offline to the internet. Then that should be a very good division of labor.
It's interesting, and I suppose it's the view of what Caesar's is Caesar's. Which one would we be? Would we be Caesar, or are we in relation to God in that context? Because it's interesting. Either could go.
It will be offensive no matter I call AI or human to be the god.
Yeah, obviously one of them. So I suppose in the context, humans would be the equivalent of God in the context because we're the ones who'd have the ultimate decision, and then Caesar's in control of the day and the information that comes from it. So it's an interesting way of looking at it. I've never heard someone relate it in the same way. We need to give it its due respect, but understand it has its place.
That's right.
So from there, obviously, you mentioned before you're an investor and now a startup founder. Does that ever conflict in your head more than people would expect? You must look at it sometimes from this is an entrepreneur's decision, and sometimes the investor in you might say, actually, perhaps not,
Yeah,
and we should go this way instead. Does that compute for you, or does it cause conflict?
Sam Altman is also a great entrepreneur, a great investor at the same time, and I bet he will tell you being a good investor helps him to be a better entrepreneur. It provides
Right.
me with like more comprehensive perspective. I have a
Hmm.
better stakeholder management skill because I can switch my head and think from like step into the shoes of another side of the table. That's why I care a lot about governance and how to maintain a good relationship with everyone, how to properly outward manage the board, maintain transparency in stakeholder communication, so on. So I think it benefits me a lot. And one
Hmm.
funny thing is I'm actually also sitting on the board of like digital asset bank in Switzerland. It's one of our investments. Like to be at a bank, like a regulated bank in Switzerland and on this board taught me a lot on how to do good governance. And those lessons help me run a better company on what I'm doing right now.
I did hear Sam Altman say that a lot of the things he's taught in the past would no longer be applicable to OpenAI because obviously it's gone in a totally different direction to what he would ever advise. So I suppose you have to be prepared to sometimes be somewhat of a hypocrite, knowing that, yes, what I've said before isn't applicable here. But it's interesting that you're on the boards of a bank. And then is that obviously the AI that you've been working in, is that part of how that came to be?
It's more that because I'm also owning a multi-billion asset management firm in Hong Kong. So on that front, we're doing active investment in different technologically innovative companies. And one of those happened to be like that digital asset bank in Switzerland.
Okay, wonderful. It's interesting. 'Cause I've never spoken to somebody who was an investor and an entrepreneur at the same time. I have, but where there were smaller investors as opposed to being actually
Yeah.
on the board and being involved in the governance. It's usually their add-ons, as it were.
Yep.
It's an interesting way of doing things.
Indeed, if I may share a bit of my background, I actually started to be an investor and convert myself into entrepreneur. I started my career
Yeah.
in Goldman Sachs and investment bank. I was in a team called Fundamental Equity. which in layman term is like the Warren Buffett style investment. Like you look into company like financial reports. Instead of my peers, they were like the quantitative analysts. They would build mathematical models to predict on stock prices. My co-founder and I were always working in the same industry, and we were always jealous of why those guys in the quantum seem very chill. They just have to build some models and the AI will earn money for them. While we got to be so
Yeah.
hardworking, listening to all the earning calls, reading all those financial reports ourselves instead of having help from AI. So that was the very beginning when we started to think about a better future of AI, better understanding languages. That's when we realized reading financial reports, listening to all those earning calls would require a human level of intelligence at the machine level. We started to imagine what if like text to speech becoming better, what if like text understanding becoming better, what can we do to those? That was already 10 years ago. And finally, with ChatGPT, all those vision is now becoming possible. So I definitely get very excited on what LM can do to the whole investment space.
So from there, obviously, would you have said your viewpoint was more sort of Warren Buffett-esque of a long-term view on things, and now you've came to, I suppose, almost the dark side of investing, and then the viewpoint from there?
Trying to achieve a balance of the forces. After all, I wouldn't say like which one is the bright side or the dark side. Ultimately, as long as you profit, that's the game, right? Renaissance, Citadel, Two Sigma, they're all great quant hedge funds that earn like billions and billions every year. Ultimately, it's all about how you can really take out true alpha signal, no matter it's like from the pricing movement or from how the chairman move his lips to indicate anything about any lies he's lying or something. As long as it's inside, then we should extract. And of course, we'll welcome whatever mean to use machine to help us do the jobs better. And I would say that, and of course, on contrary to doing AI shouldn't be the competitor. It's always, we can be companion. In the investment world, it's always human versus human. Your competitor is always another human. So if I can get like
Mhm.
AI standing by my side, beating another investor, why not?
So from there, as an investor, when you look at Product Hunt, how do you look at companies? Do you assess them on their ranking? Do you look at it at all from an investor's perspective, or is it just a marketing platform?
Once you launch like a campaign, people will be inboxing you and say, hey, like, do you want to buy some upvotes? So that's why we were lucky enough to get at the second place of the day. But like the biggest recognition we thought we received was to be featured by the Product Hunt newsletter. The editorial
Hmm.
page was a really strong encouragement to what we do. And I love how the editor wrote about our product. The editor like used the matrix analogy, saying that SEO articles are like the continuously replicating Agent Smith. The only way that you can beat it is to be Neo and train with Kung Fu. So the Kung Fu is Arbor. What a beautiful analogy. I love that.
I've seen a few people say the same thing, that it was more the featuring or the newsletter that was beneficial to them, and a lot of the on the day ranking was an immediate boost to morale, but then a secondary consideration after the fact.
Yep, that's right. That's right. So we're glad and honored to be featured.
So you came second. Did you spend a lot of time promoting yourself, or did you just turn up and say, right, then we've got Kung Fu, do you want some lessons?
Yeah, we did spend a lot of time replying to the comment sections to answer every question. And indeed, I love the comment sections. People give really good feedback to the product, telling us what they expect to see next. Very good feedback, especially most users on product hunts are product managers themselves, right?
So did you have many people come and sign up and start to use Arbor?
Yep, yep, yep. There was a very healthy inflow of traffic.
And it's continued since then, or has it dissipated?
Any recognition is good recognition, especially with product hunt such a reputable platform, right? So we definitely will leverage more on the results to promote this on our website, in our advertising. It's definitely very helpful.
So will that be a sort of a continued? But did you use it more for validation, or was it more for like early go to market activity?
Early go-to-market activity. After all, like the app has actually been launched for a few months already, and we have already gathered like some good early traction and feedback. We have got over 50% download to monthly active users, so we have a very engaging platform. It's the time for us more to let it be more well known. Especially, we love to put on product hunt. After all, like product hunt, people are the early adopters in new tech, in new type of like products. We want to be seen by the influencers of the industry.
Okay, so you're going to be going down a bit of a social media and an influencer route to say to people, we've got Kung Fu, come and learn it.
Yeah. Because like on what we are doing, you can see that it's not like another video app or another Chrome browser plugin. It's not just a new product, but it's also a new philosophy of how the internet should be. There is some sort of like evangelist role I have to play. I have to educate the market. I have to share on the vision we do, and we definitely want more people to join the mission on that. And any chance to talk with the core people of the industry that would have a high chance to understand the mission and could do that together, I think is worthwhile.
No, fantastic. It's an interesting time because you've got a product that's helping make sense of the internet and make things not be as disjointed. And then on the flip side of that, you're going to be saying to people, share our tool, who some of them may have been users of AI to help them generate content. So it'll be interesting as they start to, perhaps they can use Arbor to make better videos and other content that around what they're doing as well. So you could be talking to people who are potential influencers, and then at the flip side, having them as customers. So it'd be an interesting conversation because you perhaps should be offering them a discount as opposed to negotiating some fees.
Yes, again, balance of the force. By destroying the old world will accelerate the flourish of the new one. So yes, I welcome content marketers to use my app to create more content marketing bullshits.
So from there, are you going to be going back to product hunt again? Is that the long-term plan to release with updates as you bring out more products and features?
We actually have a new product feature coming up that I would like to come back and show to the community. Like when we build on the product, we actually start to understand better and better on the limitation, but also the power of Gen AI is still very early. And most importantly, the implication of using Gen AI in the media industry. So we have some new ideas in head. We are doing POC. We are looking forward to release that to the community. But our next generation thinking is, why don't we make all those aggregated summaries to be summarized again? So I can give you a 700 word, highly condensed, totally personalized, and with insights extracted kind of newsletter service to all the readers. If AI can digest 1,000 articles for you, you just need to read one to start. Of course, we still expect when there is a small reference, you feel interested, you click into the original article. But at least people nowadays start to get less interested in scrolling the feed because it's tiring. Many of the stuff they don't care. We think we want to create a habit that if I provide you 700 words of things that every word matter to you, that at least you'll be patient enough to finish that 700 words. Then it gives people me the chance to show you things truly valuable so they can trigger your interest and really read the original one after that.
There's two things of both A and B is very interesting. The part of you working with the New York Times, it's I'd had for having no understanding of the legal part of it, but looking and you're thinking, does this mean now that the big news is not going to be interested in AI? But obviously that's not the case. You've needed to come with the right value proposition for them to be interested, which is such an incredible juxtaposition versus a legal battle with OpenAI, as you've said. It's crazy. And then obviously the multiple summarization of content. I think that's realistically where you start with research, isn't it? When you go to school, to college, to university, your professor starts with a lecture, then he says, go and read these books. After you've read these books and these articles, then you'll say, and this one refers to this one, and that one refers to that one. And before you've gone down that path yourself naturally. So what you're doing is making that process for somebody, no matter what position they're in, for their ability to study and consume content, they're able to go, I've started from point one, I'm only interested in point one, but so other people might go to point seven and sub point 15 on this one. It'll be a good way for people to learn lots of new things in general, I think, let
Yeah.
alone references to the news. So it's a clever use of AI.
Yep, and I think that what AI can do is very powerful and beyond something what could be done in the past, especially in media consumption. A is when we do summarization, it provides a higher density compression Because after all, like you can really quickly compress two sentences or two articles into one sentence without losing too much of the insight. Sometimes that it can be like generalized through this kind of Gen AI summarization and provides even more insightful output. That's point A. Point B is when in the past all the media content was pre-made, so that you can't really twist on how you see it, how it's presented. Of course, you have to figure out your way, your perspective to see each article. But then with Gen AI, we start in our next version, we are introducing the concept of intention. We don't just ask on what topic you're interested in, we ask on what kind of intention you have behind that topic. Say primarily, whether you are a fan or you're a sports bettor or you are like the club manager, make a total difference to what news would matter to you and how you see each news. And with that intention as the engine, we then present you exactly the angle you'll be looking forward to read. It's another 10x better in a media consumption.
Okay, I've never thought of consuming information that way. I'm just taking a moment to process it. It's very clever. From that, would you have then a potential that somebody gets caught in their own confirmation biases? How are you going to make sure somebody doesn't, that they're a manager and then they're never perhaps having a viewpoint somewhere that would challenge their existing beliefs?
Yep. I would say we have a very overloaded internet and everyone is information overloaded anyway. Facebook is a gigantic echo chamber. If someone is lazy enough and not trying to dig deep, we can't help anyone having biases.
Right.
Or at least like what I'm trying to say is by compressing valuable information to be more digestible, at least it reduces the chance of having biases. On my case, I'll be showing you still the facts, but then the relevant angle to look into the facts in my summaries. Then you click into it. That will be again the aggregated summary I have that aggregate all the viewpoints and sources from the leftist to the rightist. Then I show you the comprehensiveness in my detail section. Indeed, I
Yeah.
think I'm going to reduce a bit of biases and try to promote neutrality in one page.
It's interesting because obviously I was talking further afield later on past politics and as you move into education, there's a few marketing professors that hold significantly different positions on certain subjects, and the issue is they're both right. And it's about the balance and the nuance of the case, and what's valuable for your business may or may not be valuable for mine because of one minor difference. And obviously, in general, that would be down to an expert to understand. But you're now saying, in essence, the AI is Caesar is in a position to render to you the information that's now relevant, which I suppose does work as long as you get that right and you don't have an inherent bias in your system, doesn't it?
Yep, that's right. So people would think, okay, perspective means like biases. I guess the thing is, we definitely want to see things relevant to us. Put it this way, on the latest games, I'm a Liverpool fan, by the way, then I will care about like the draw with Manchester United. And as a sports bettor, then I will care more that like by having this draw, it means that Arsenal has a better chance to win the title. Or if I'm the club manager, then I actually probably may skip this because I already know it's a draw. I'll focus more on the transfer news. So this is the perspective I'm
Mm-hmm.
talking about. It doesn't mean that we need to generate a different view from the original articles by AI. It's more on which part to extract that would be extremely more relevant to you than other intentions.
That makes a lot of sense. Should you have mass adoption, the way Arbor is changing things is quite significant to what people have been used to consuming. And especially as we move towards an attention economy and people have now got this same 8 seconds was used to be people's attention span. It's getting lower and lower to the point where now it seems to be split seconds. If people don't like it on the initial judgment, they'll move on. But I suppose technically speaking, that was applicable. I can remember reading something from David Acker, a marketing professor years ago, and it might have been his daughter to be fair, and she was talking about a website and that the first section somebody looks at in a millisecond, if they don't like it, they'll move on. So technically speaking, it's no different to what it was then. It's just now it's a different medium. So what was picking up a newspaper perhaps or picking up a book, you're going to have to invest that time as soon as you picked up to skim it. But then obviously now the content and the way you're changing it or will be changing it. It means that people are going to be able to start to consume relevant information in milliseconds almost, and then
So
still give the value back. It's an incredible change.
yep. I think that we shouldn't underestimate the value of like higher density knowledge or higher density information. Like with the traction I see from my app, of course, TikTok and all those short video platforms are driving people more to multimedia. But then, does that mean people hate reading? I don't think so. I just think people hate reading long content. When it's short enough, people still find it okay. People still consume a lot of content and media. People just expect to have higher information density in the media they consume.
I think you're both correct and incorrect, perhaps a little bit there. And part of the way you would be incorrect is something you've already highlighted before, where you were correct on the idea that perhaps it's not the content and the length of the content; it's the quality of the new information that content provides. So if you're reading 10 articles, then 90% of it's the same. You're only going to be consuming 10% of that article. So your bounce from one website to another is going to be drastically shorter because you've already had the information quickly. Is the attention getting longer, or just people now more savvy to the idea that this content isn't actually valuable?
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah, like, I'm not a millennial, but I learned a lot from them as well. The most amazing part I found them using Instagram is they'll be flashing the stories. But then when I asked them, hey, when you're flashing the stories, are you really watching it? They said, yeah, because like in a millisecond, I understand the context of the photo, then I know whether I should spend any attention on it or not. I
Yeah.
think that users just found their way to evolve and better consume their content.
Definitely, because I've heard people before talk about perhaps through human evolution, we used to be able to make a snap second judgment on is this person safe or not, is this situation safe or not, and now people are looking at, instead of looking at their life and their safety, they're looking at their time and attention. Is this content safe or not? And often perhaps it's not, and that's where the bounce rates come from. It's very insightful.
How long is your show usually?
Long story short, it's as long or short as it needs to be, because obviously Product Hunt is interesting. It's a great platform, but the founders, their genesis story, and then their evolution, and then often their exodus for many of them from the corporate world to being self-employed is perhaps more interesting.
Long story short is exactly our slogan.
Long story short, it's a good one.
So Ty, like, have you been seeing other interesting AI products recently, or like, have you been seeing any other generative media company like what we do at Arbor?
There's two of great interest. I suppose Listen to AI is in a similar space to you, and Shan, he's created a wonderful summary. His path is quite different to yours. He wants to make it like an Uber for news, so people can share the content. He's got a very interesting story of his father who'd been in jail in China because of his political view, and obviously that's impacted his journey. And then his technical skills, and perhaps reminiscing on a conversation with his dad once, he's thought that it's changed the news a little bit. The way they're changing the news, I think, is interesting. So it'd be like a podcast on the way home. So you press play, and then it's going to give you news that's relevant to you and what you're interested in, which I thought was cool. But then there was another young man, originally from Hong Kong, funnily enough. He Yankan, he's called. He's created a tool called Wisdom Plan. Now, what Wisdom Plan does, it's meant for education. So it will take what you say, I want to learn, let's say, I think his example was Python. So I want to learn Python. Type it in, gives a little bit of information back. Do you want to learn it to this level or that level? And then after he clicks, do you want to learn this level? It will then say, and here's a full lesson plan. Here's a full curriculum for you to go and self-study. But then some of the things he's wanting to do with it in his second release, which should be coming out soon, to be fair, because he said it was going to be about a 6-week cycle, where he wants to have an AI tutor that's able to now test you to the appropriate level, and then groups and other things that education. I think for a lot of people around the world who haven't had access to top universities, it's a very interesting way to democratize education, because he's using all of the content on the internet and then deciphering whether it's good content or not. So perhaps in due time, we might be able to say to you, do you have an API for helping us decipher this information better? But it's a very good use of AI. And I think that's the point of what I'm seeing a lot of people doing is most of the people who come from the top 5 of Product Hunt have either been people who want to use AI to solve a problem that they've had or solve a problem that hasn't really been solved properly yet, such as yourself with the internet. It's, most people haven't understood the problem that you're solving. And then when you explain it to them, it's just actually you're 100% right. This information is disjointed. Shan, he's saying the news that people are consuming is where he's starting from. He wants to go into publishing as a wider industry. There's a left and a right bias, and he's saying actually stick to your left or right bias, but I'm going to put a little toggle on so you can change the perspective if you want to. And then try to summarize and use and other things where, again, a lot of people, you want to stay abreast of what's going on in the world, but at the same time, how much time do you have to give? And not everyone has a lot of time. So they're clever uses of AI. And then other people are more injecting AI into a process that was going to be slower or inefficient. So it's interesting.
I've been seeing like presentations from YC, Dispatch. I think I'm predicting that generative media is finally taking off as an industry. And someone not sure if you have shared a similar feeling. ChatGPT is amazing, but then we actually haven't seen enough production grade mass market AI products yet. There have been tons of apps for sure, but then many of them really take off as a successful billion user, like that kind of consumer apps. AI products in productivity space in B2B is very straightforward, but in the 2C side is like nowhere. Like even ChatGPT is having just roughly 100 million MAUs, right? It's not really hitting to like the billion user level as quick as we thought. I think like the use case like, is two things. Like, A is the use case, and second is a bigger challenge, like how mature like AI really is on a massive consumer level. So somehow when we put in a lot of effort to develop Arbor, I start to have a better understanding why Sam Altman said ChatGPT is just a demo. The thing is, a early adopter level, like ChatGPT is great, like you can answer many questions, but then there will still be a decent amount of time that it will fail you. And actually, people say it's getting higher and higher failure rates. They start to hate GPT-4, and that's not good enough at a massive billion user production grade level. And even for us, we focus just on doing summarization well. It takes us building another 5, 6, 7, actually more. I've lost count. Number of deep learning models on top to control the behavior of LM. We realize it's still a bit of a technical barrier, and it takes a team to be fully focused on providing best experience on a very specific vertical area that LM can achieve. So that's why I wish to see more innovation in different vertical areas. I tend to see that a general intelligence AI chatbot that kind of thing is still ChatGPT thing and is still not exactly mature. The mature AI product right now would be those like second latest generation AI translation, general like summarization, that kind of like technology that didn't really get mature. But then because LM gets mature, we actually first make the last generation AI product finally mature enough to be massively used by billions of people. And then, of course, like riding on the area of what we can do with translation, what we can do on summarization, then it depends on entrepreneurs on to find the right fit into that, right? And I guess at least a test-based generative media finally can take off. Before that, even if users were taking like GPT-3 or 2 or 1, no, then nobody can do a generative media like this. So people would probably call this year of generative media. But then, of course, there will still be some initiatives that probably gone too bold. It will take a few more years to be realized, like Channel One. I do believe in the future of the generative tech talk one day, but then from the quality of Sora is probably another at least 3, 4 years ahead. In the meantime, we can focus on test generation and really find the right channel to deliver that value to the right users.
I think one of the things you have though is obviously we're still very at the early stages of adopting AI. And if you were to say realistically for even early adopters, generative AI is 2 years old. It's not had long at all. And where it's got to, especially OpenAI in that time, obviously they've been able to, I wouldn't say carry Claude, but they've been able to bring a spotlight to Claude and to Perplexity and to, well, not Gemini because that's Google's, but some
Yeah.
of the generative larger models, they've been able to have a spotlight perhaps because of OpenAI. And in the same way, if you were to say, if we were to look back at social media and say, how long did it take for Mark Zuckerberg to go from founding Facebook to being sat in Congress and being quizzed over the implications of his choices? I think Sam Altman's got there 10 times quicker. They were there before most people knew what was going on with it. So it's still very early, and I think they've done some great things with it. And I've seen some really cool tools, and I've seen some that we're going to feature soon that have been edited and yet to be released, where they're doing some image things. One of them, Uma, he's created a tool that where you can draw on a bit like an Adobe Illustrator. You can draw, and at the same time, you've told the AI how to respond to your pen strokes. So it's really
Mm.
cool for somebody, I want to draw this type of thing, and obviously articulating that vision, it can't get there. And then he also done a face swap tool, which is incredible the way it works. He's restricted it to only work on, I think, Giphy because he doesn't want people misusing it. He swapped his own face and it was seamless. So there's a lot of things coming. How long until they're a billion users? I don't know. But how long did it take social media to have a billion people on the platform? Quite a long time.
I think you were exactly right, especially when you compare like Mark Zuckerberg with Sam Altman on the timeline to hit the Congress. Our industry or like humanity has always been working like this. Technological advancement is on the exponential scale. Is
Mm.
there are a few like implications of that. The first one is people usually look into the progress of history from a linear perspective, not a exponential perspective, because it's kind of counterintuitive to experience or feel exponential growth. If we really draw the line, then we all will realize there's a common saying. People usually would go overhype on a new trend very easily in the short run, but then will undermine the potential of a big change in the long run. So
Mhm.
I guess we exactly have gone through the type of ChatGPT for the past 2 years, but then also like people start to undermine or like forgot what actually can do in the long run. Like and the impact of AI to humanity would definitely be the biggest in human history. The release of the final frontier in human productivity, which is intelligence, and scale it. Imagine we'll be having like the intelligence of not 7 billion but 7 trillion people intelligence in developing society, right? The potential, the opportunities for everyone in the industry to tap in is definitely tremendous. And it's definitely the biggest impact to civilization in human history. And very likely the last thing as human we can do to humanity, right? Probably there's the saying on singularity, right? After singularity, then the advancement can be driven by machine. Then we probably don't really have much places, like much spaces to play.
Yeah, well, I can see that. I suppose as well, back to the concept of AI and its progress. I can remember watching something, I think it was like the Jetsons or something, a remake of an old fashioned show. And a lot of the time we had flying cars before we had the AI. So I think that's a testament to how fast AI's gone. We look like we're getting flying cars quite quickly, and then all of a sudden we're not. We're still just on electric, and we're getting closer, and maybe a bit of self-driving could work. But talking about the hallucinations of AI, I don't know if I'd let something like chat drive my car for me. But it's gone very fast, and I think we're close to being perhaps, as you say, the singularity and things changing, and perhaps in a way no one could have foresaw realistically 50, 100 years ago. I know if I showed my grandmother time travel back and showed her something when she was my age, what we have today, even Siri would have been unfathomable, let alone what we can do now.
That's right.
Is there anything else you'd want to discuss from here? Or
I think we
I'm
get.
aware you're ahead of time.
Yep.
Yeah, you're ahead
Yep.
of time, aren't you? It's close to bedtime. I'll put a link to Arbor in, and then we'll be able to take it from there. But outside of that, I'll say goodbye first because if not, I seem incredibly rude. You call yourself British, you're supposed to be polite. I'm from up north, so we get away with it. But
Sure.
okay, Cheney, that's been a wonderful conversation, and thank you for coming. Thank you for sharing such valuable information. I hope Arbor is in a position where you are able to summarize things and cut a very long story short. And hopefully, we can have you back on, perhaps with your release, and we can see in May what's going on. If not, in 6 months' time, have you back on to discuss how things have evolved and what's going on for you and Arbor in the future.
Thank you, Ty. It's a wonderful chat. Would love to come back and share more updates in the future and talk deeper into like various topics on AI.
Wonderful. Thank you very much and have a wonderful day.